This video is going to outline 5 sports cars you can buy for under 5k, which are the most reliable sports cars in their class. And yes, there's some great categories here that I think you'll like. If you're a student and you wanted a car straight out of university and you can't afford a 10k sports car, then here are some choices. There's no hatchbacks or coupes, but what I have included is a list of great cars that you will be surprised you can afford on a budget if you've got the right maintenance and insurance. I've taken all my sources from the magazines, and let's get into this reliable video. There's a reason you still see 350Zs on the road today, despite being almost 20 years old when they came out in 2002, and that is because they can cover 200,000 miles with proper maintenance and care. The 350Z is highly recommended by customers partially because of its high reliability and partially because of its affordable maintenance costs, and you still see them all over the world. Given that we've had 2 new Zs out in that time, this is still a popular car with enthusiasts and modifiers, and will probably be a bit more timeless in my opinion because it's a car that I still think looks modern. Yes, the 370Z is out and that's a bit more complicated and more expensive, so why not get a 3 litre V6 engine? Yes, that is a big engine for most people, but if you want a sports car on a budget, this is the perfect example to start with. Here you can see that it's extremely modifiable and been a great car for so many parts and forums to see if you were looking for one. I definitely recommend the front engine rear wheel drive layout, and they come as cheap as £3,000 these days. If you are in the UK though, it's worth noting that to have a car like this on tax is about £600, so that does unfortunately put a bit of a downer on ownership for the 350Z, but for me definitely worth it for this list. At number 2 is the Toyota MR2. Quite fittingly, this car is an excellent exception of reliability and performance. The Toyota MR2, yes, might be a bit more expensive due to the JDM scene right now with everyone wanting its pop-up headlights and affordability, but it's also extremely reliable. The MR2 for me is really well designed and I really enjoy seeing this version on the road. Yes, the 3rd generation is a possibility and also just as good, but I thought this might be a bit more interesting to talk about the 2nd generation, as this is a car that's been around for 10 years in production and then still now we're seeing them everywhere. I love the MR2 because you know it's got a good reliability from Toyota, and it uses either an MR2 2.2 litre engine producing 130 horsepower or the turbocharged engine at 200, but obviously that's going to cost a little bit more. The engines, like I said in the GR86 videos last week, and the GR engines are extremely powerful and great to use for little fun drives. The twin cam 16 turbo is what it's well known for across the world, and it's sold very well. Here's an example I found for £4,200. This is really good value, and yes, while it might be a dog, I think they're only going to go up in price. At number 3 is a well-deserved place. It's the BMW Z4, car I actually particularly want to buy as well. The Z4 has obviously been around again for almost 20 years after the success of the Z3, and the Z4 you still see today because it's a reliable car. Now, a few owners have reported of failures of ECUs causing misfires, but majority of these cars will literally last for 10 years if you look after them. One of the downsides with the Z4 being BMW is it, of course, has maintenance and labour costs associated with BMW. And with every other car, I would say, yes, it's not a good choice. But with the new Z4 now, you're being able to get a bit of Toyota in it. BMW Z4 is extremely cheap, and I've seen some for as little as £3,000 again. A car I definitely recommend. And with that 2.5 litre straight 6, pushing out 186 horsepower, depending on the model, it's a really good car for a little weekend drive. I certainly wasn't going to make a video about sports cars and reliability without including the MX5. Of course the MX5 had to be in this, and I've included it several times in many videos, but for this particular one it is a sports car and I think it does deserve this place on the list. Of course all MX5s are reliable with their 1.8 litre to 2 litre engines, which produce around 150 horsepower depending on the model. Well, with the NC I've particularly picked this one out because it seems to have been the most reliable one that was launched back in 2005. And the NB, which is also both under 5k at the moment. The other ones are sort of older or newer and are just a bit too expensive, and you can modify them really well. The MX5 NC is an entertaining, extremely reliable Japanese sports car that is all about the driver. It's won Most Reliable British Car of the Year, and it's only £2,000. A lot of people probably won't believe me when I say the Audi TT 1st generation is one of the revolution in sports car worlds. Yes, you could call it a little coupe convertible, but it does come down under a sports car category. And the 1st generation TT is very much overlooked these days. Again, you still see loads of them, and it's an absolute bargain. A lot of these prices are around £1,500 just for a starter with a 1.8 turbo, 225 engine. These are not slow cars, and the engines at this period were known to be extremely reliable when looked after correctly with the right maintenance, as all cars often can be. These cars just keep going and going, and often you'll see, again, ones with hundreds of thousands of miles, and they're not as desirable anymore because a lot of people own the newer TT. And a lot of people also don't know that these are actually easily modified cars with decent performance. They might look like a handful for an old Audi with a lot of miles, but trust me, the Audi TT in its Quattro form, which may be a bit more expensive, is an extremely great car. One thing to be aware though is if you are younger, the modifications increase the premiums on these and do make them a bit higher to run. And with a tax and all insurance included, it might put you off. But as a reliable sports car, this definitely deserves its place, and a car that maybe could become a future classic. If you've enjoyed this Cars with Ben video, don't forget to subscribe if you like car content.